there, Diocese of the Rio Grande. This is your weekly update for the third week of Easter 2024. In this weekly update, I want you to talk at some length with LeAnna Brun about Camp Stoney and Bishop's Ridge and the exciting programs we're having coming up for young people and how you can get involved and support that effort. And we're going to begin a little feature we call Storytime in the DRG. You know, I love this diocese. I love El Paso and far west Texas. I love New Mexico from El Norte all the way to the Boot Heel. And I want to share with you some of the history of the diocese because, as we've been talking about recently, we are facing times of change and difference in the Episcopal Church. And I think it's helpful for us to remember that the way we do things today isn't the way it's always been done. God has worked through this diocese in a lot of different ways. And so I want to share with you a couple of stories from the beginning of the diocese in El Paso as I prepare to go and visit El Paso. And then I want to share with you what's going on in El Paso today as I interview people in El Paso in the week to come. So look forward to that coming up. All right. Hello, LeAnna Brun, who is our missioner for family ministry. Did I get that title right? It's
think so. Formation, all of the above.
And today we want to talk a little bit about Camp Stoney, which is coming up soon. LeAnna, tell us all about it.
All right. We've got Camp Stoney back again this summer. We've got 2 family camp sessions as well as 2 youth sessions. So, and the good news is our first family camp session is going to be offered with bilingual formation in Spanish. So if the language of your heart is Spanish, you sign up for that one and come on down.
Tell us about what is family camp for those who may not know about family camp. Who comes to family camp? What's the schedule like? How long does it last? Tell us about it.
Right. So family camp starts on an evening. The first one starts on a Friday evening and ends Sunday lunch. And the great thing is this is really a wonderful time for families to get away, disconnect, spend some time together. There will also be opportunities for the kiddos to run off and do their thing and the adults to have a little formation together. We, of course, are going to have cornhole tournaments and things like that. But we're looking primarily at families that have got younger kiddos. This is a great opportunity with families who have kids under the age that would normally be able to go to camp, so younger than 3rd grade. That way they're there, if mom's there, dad's there, somebody's there that they usually are spending their home time with. This is a chance for them to stay in the cabin and get used to what camp feels like. So kind of dipping your toe in the camp water, so to speak. So I think it's a wonderful one.
And grandparents could come too, right?
Oh, grandparents, the family friends, anybody who wants to come and spend time in a family setting. And it's really great. We put the cell phones away. We're going to have a hike. We're going to have some fun. We're going to learn some more about Jesus. I mean, it's just a really good, think of it as like family vacation Bible school, but maybe not all those kinds of bells and whistles, but more of the camp bells and whistles.
I love it. There's so many things I love about the family camp concept and idea, and I want to help people think about it in the diocese because I think particularly folks who may be in that grandparent generation may be thinking, my days at camp are over. I don't have kids anymore, or my kids are in their 50s now. But if you've got grandchildren, bring your grandkids to Camp Stoney. Wherever they live across the world, you can sign them up and say, come and spend a long weekend with us at camp. The camp is located at Bishop's Ridge, which is just off just about 8 minutes off the plaza in Santa Fe. It's a beautiful setting. If you haven't been there, we invite you to come. But grandparents can bring their grandkids, parents can bring their kids. It's a wonderful time. And so think about family camp, and it's particularly fun that you're doing it in Espanol as well as in Inglés this year.
Correct, correct. I know from other camps that family camp has also been a great opportunity for extended relatives to come together. So if you're like some of us, where a part of your family's in New Mexico and parts in Texas or maybe Oklahoma or Colorado, you can converge on Santa Fe, and have a good time. And it's just a nice little, and it's actually very reasonable price wise. And so, because all the meals are included and a place to stay, and you can't often say that about Santa Fe. So, bring the family together, and there's something for everybody to do. And so, spend some time together, spend some time knowing that the kids are well taken care of by our wonderful counselors, and three of the four were Camp Stoney campers. And they love it so much, they're coming back. So I'm really excited to have our counselors come back. And that way, your kids have somebody that's familiar and loves on them, and they'll just continue to have a great time while they're at camp. And then our second family camp session is the is going to actually start on a Sunday and go through a Tuesday. It's June 30th through July 2nd. So it's kind of a precursor to July 4th. So if you've got that week off or that time off or a chance to do that, you can have a nice extended weekend and still have a chance to go and see the July 4th festivities in Santa Fe. So a really nice other option. And then we have our youth-centered camps. This year we're doing something a little bit different. We're going to try having our campers together by kind of age cohorts. So we're looking at kiddos that'll be in third grade next year, all the way through through eighth grade in the first session. And then in this next session, we'll have a little overlap because a lot of times, if you've got one kid going to camp, you want the other kid going to camp at the same time.
Mhm.
And so that one will be kiddos that are going into seventh grade through 12th. And so we have a little kind of an age cohort happening because as the kids get older, we want them to be involved in the diocesan activities that are planned and are coming up. And
Okay.
that's typically your junior high and high school age. And so if they get to know each other in elementary and they're excited about seeing each other at camp, then they'll have these other opportunities throughout the year and build those bonds so that that kiddo who, like me as a kid, was the lone Episcopalian in the county, they get to go and meet with other Episcopalian kiddos in at Bishop's Ridge, but around the diocese, because we're planning to take the show on the road. We're going to try and get to do as many activities with as many Episcopalian kiddos all over New Mexico and far west Texas. So we're really excited about that.
That's wonderful. A part of the thing I want to remind everybody in the diocese about is that having you on as our diocesan um, missioner is our effort to help support youth and family ministry across the diocese. The reality is that many of our congregations do not have enough young kids or families to have a robust Sunday school program that is ongoing. And this is a way for you to have quality Christian formation for your young people provided by the diocese at a very reasonable cost. And the the Christian formation at Camp Stoney will be a part of who they are, and it will raise them up to be leaders, servant leaders, both in the church but also in their lives. So I really want to encourage everybody, if you've got kids, tell your neighbors about it, bring your
Right?
grandkids, bring your kids. It's a wonderful opportunity, and it is part of our diocesan effort to do Christian formation.
It is. It is. And if you're still wondering about it, if it's for you and your family, we're going to have an open house at the end of this month, April 29th, I believe, or 28th. Sorry. It's on Sunday afternoon from 1 to 6. So go to church in the morning, grab the kiddos, and come on out. We're going to have some food from the folks that run the kitchen there. So you'll get to try some of the food. We're going to have some of the games and activities, and we're going to have tours. And if we get enough folks, we may even have a hike or two. So, folks, come on out on the 28th. It's a Sunday afternoon. and you can come check it out. And if you have questions, I'm going to be there. The director of Bishop's Ridge, Christopher Jewell, will be there, and hopefully we'll be able to onboard some of our counselors. But we're going to try and have folks there for you to ask questions. You want to come see what a cabin looks like inside, check out those bunk beds, you come and check it out. And then we're going to have work days because we love Bishop's Ridge and we love Camp Stoney. We want to make it as shiny and beautiful as possible. We're going to be sorting out the arts and crafts barn. We're going to be going out and clearing some trails to make sure the hiking trails are in mint condition. So when we come back in a few weeks in June, it's all ready for camp. And that is going to be May 25th and 26th. That's a Saturday and Sunday. And for those who are driving in from further away, do have the option to spend the night. We need to know that though. So please let me know if you're coming to work days, and we'll get you assigned a cabin and some wonderful work to do. And again, our kitchen folks will be providing some great meals, and we'll just have some fun and fellowship, and we'll have Eucharist on Sunday. And
That's
so those
wonderful.
are some great opportunities to come out and check out Bishop's Ridge.
And so, LeAnna, where can they find information about how to register for camp and what the sessions are, and how can they get in touch with you?
Wonderful. So the first thing I would say is if you go to the diocesan website, you can click on I'm an Episcopalian. Go ahead and click on it, even if you're not. Go ahead and click on that, and the first thing that'll pop up is registration for Camp Stoney. So you can click on that, and in there is the registration form and a flyer with more information. And my email is in there. If you still don't find my email, you can also find it on the diocesan staff. My name is LeAnna Brun, and my email and my phone number is there, and you can give me a call. I've also been posting on the Camp Stoney Facebook and Instagram, so you can also message me that way, and we'll find a time to chat or answer emails or however your preferred form of communication is. And I am not great with Spanish, but I do know how to get answers if you need to type those questions in Spanish.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, LeAnna, thank you so much. The Camp Stoney is such a loving and safe place for young people of all ages and their attached grown-ups as well. And so
Right.
we want everybody to understand and come to Camp Stoney and have that experience. Thank you for the love that you put into it. Thanks to the counselors who bring their energy and joy and leadership. We are super happy about Camp Stoney and all you're doing. So thank you so much for your ministry in the diocese.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
I'm headed to El Paso this week, and I'll be in all 5 of the congregations in El Paso in the week to come. But I'd like to share with you all in the diocese. I love this diocese. I love El Paso and far west Texas. I love New Mexico from El Norte all the way to the Boot Heel. And I want to share with you some of the history of the diocese because, as we've been talking about recently, we are facing times of change and difference in the Episcopal Church. And I think it's helpful for us to remember that the way we do things today isn't the way it's always been done. God has worked through this diocese in a lot of different ways. And so I want to share with you a couple of stories from the beginning of the diocese in El Paso. I want everyone in the diocese to know about this wonderful book. It's called Lighting the Candle. It's written by Bishop Stoney, after whom Camp Stoney was named. And he was a bit of a historian, our Bishop Stoney. And I think it was the late 1960s, let me just double check, early 1960s, in 1961, what was then called the Diocese of New Mexico and Southwest Texas published this book, A History of the Diocese, called Lighting the Candle. And we can't learn about the founding of the Episcopal Church in El Paso without getting to know the Reverend Joseph Wilkin Tays. And I'm going to read to you right from the book because it's fabulous. The year 1874 is an important one in our diocesan history. It was not only the year that New Mexico and Arizona were constituted a missionary district with its own bishop, but the same General Convention established the Missionary District of Western Texas, which is now the Diocese of West Texas. The Reverend Robert Woodward Barnwell Elliott was elected its first bishop. The twin districts had plenty of territory but little else. Western Texas had 7 clergymen and several short railway lines totaling 128 miles of roadbed. New Mexico and Arizona had 1 clergyman, the Reverend Barstow of Las Cruces, and no railroad at all, though it was obvious that they had to come through both areas someday to get to the West Coast. Bishop Adams was elected missionary bishop of New Mexico and Arizona with the general plan that he should go to the New Mexico end of the Santa Fe Trail and then work south, following the projected railroad that was then heading westward from Kansas. Bishop Elliott found himself in charge of a great country with poor transportation facilities and, in many sections, with almost no population. The extreme western part was too far off for any sort of effective oversight. A weekly stage line ran from San Antonio through Franklin, and a railroad was being promoted. But in 1870, when Franklin attracted the attention of Parson Taze, it was still a part of the Diocese of Texas, and a long way off from everywhere except the small settlements up the Rio Grande del Norte. The Reverend Joseph W. Taze was the rector of the Church of the Ascension, Indianola, Texas, when he decided that he was called to the service of God on the real frontier. He had just suffered a crushing blow, the loss of his wife and baby from yellow fever. A widower with 2 small boys, with no guarantee of any fixed salary either from the local residents or from the diocese, he surely was an intrepid servant of the Lord, possessed of unbounded faith. His church promised to be and was practically a labor of love. But in addition to being a clergyman, he was a school teacher and a surveyor, and utilized both of these side professions to support his family and give his missionary enterprise a start in life. There was need in Franklin for all 3 of his professions. Mr. Taze came to Franklin with no plans in view other than to preach the gospel. He found 4 Episcopalians who were meeting on Sundays at the home of Judge Gaylord Clark, and this group he nursed into a congregation of 50 souls. The first efforts at a church were to rent 2 rooms in the old Masonic Hall, one of which was to serve as a chapel, and the other as a home for himself and his 2 motherless boys. He got a Mexican foundryman to cast a copper bell for the new mission, but not being satisfied with the tone, had it recast several times until it had the mellowness that he wanted. And he had 2 cottonwood posts driven into the ground in front of the Masonic Hall, between which the bell was hung. His first service, in fact, the first Episcopal service in the entire Rio Grande Basin, from its juncture with the Pecos as far as, but not including Santa Fe, was held in the bare little chapel. The 2 cottonwood posts had been sunk, but the bell was not yet ready to summon people to prayer. When hung, it was used for all sorts of purposes in the village. Once, when rung as a fire alarm, the congregation gathered at the chapel, thinking that it announced some kind of special service being conducted by the parson. Quite properly, Judge Judd Gaylord Clark has been credited as being the founder of St. Clement's. For over a year before Parson Tay's arrival, he had read morning and evening prayer in his home each Sunday, to which all were invited who cared to come. He also went with a committee to Austin, no mean journey, to present to Bishop Gregg, the Bishop of Texas at the time, the need for religious services in English for the American residents of Franklin, and he guaranteed personally a generous sum towards the support of a clergyman. After Mr. Tay's arrival, Judge Clark continued to be a prime mover in the development of the tiny congregation until his untimely death in the following fall, when he was an innocent victim in one of the numerous shooting affairs which characterized the Franklin of 1870. It was for Judge Clark's little son Clement, who had died just before the family moved from their native state of New York, that the church was named. So, my friends, I want you to know about and remember Judge Judd Gaylord Clark, a layman and a judge who, in the early days of El Paso, when it was still called Franklin, read morning and evening prayer every Sunday in the living room of his house, inviting friends and neighbors to come and join him. Without that lay ministry and the Book of Common Prayer, the Episcopal Church would not be in El Paso as it is right now. It was the good judge who went himself to meet with the Bishop of Texas in Austin, asking to send a priest out to the wildlands of Franklin, which is now El Paso. And that is what eventually brought Pastor Tay out to El Paso. And it was all a pretty roughshod thing. Pastor Tays was a surveyor and a school teacher. He did both of those things to try to help make ends meet. And as a surveyor, because there wasn't a lot of cash around, if he surveyed a piece of land, often in payment for the surveying service, he would be given a piece of that land. And so over time, the Reverend Pastor Tays developed quite a little real estate empire, which he used and sold pieces of to help build up the church, the Episcopal Church, which we have inherited today. So, my friends, as I prepare to drive south to hang out with the good folks in our 5 churches in El Paso next week, I want you to remember the different ways in which we are the beneficiaries of the gifts of the gospel and the Episcopal Church, sent from the General Convention meeting in Richmond, Virginia, out into Santa Fe and out into the far west part of Texas. And because of those efforts, we are here today. In the months to come, we'll have more episodes of Storytime in the Diocese of the Rio Grande, because I want you to know, because I love our history and I want you to love our history. I want you to know the significant figures from our past. And as I come around to your congregations, I'm going to be asking for you to help tell me the story of your congregation so that we can get to know that together. That's your weekly update for this 3rd week of Easter 2024. God bless you, Diocese of the Rio Grande. I'll see you soon.